Hi everybody, Jay Haig with Living Without Lust, back with you for our series of leadership videos for pastors, the leaders of Christian organization, and other influencers to help you to have what you need in order to help others who struggle with this ever-increasing problem of lust, pornography, and sexual addiction. Now, if you watched our series of first videos on the 10 most asked questions online by Christians about this whole struggle, you'll know that we have divided up lust strugglers into 4 different categories. So once the pastor has decided he's going to create an open environment by saying, if you have this struggle, come talk to me. Once he's begun to relate the gospel to it, so people are talking about it. Once they're written resources, books, and DVDs, and other kinds of resources that you can point people to so that you're creating this atmosphere of openness in your congregations. What you need to do is to understand that everybody falls into one of these 4 categories, which we discussed in the previous videos, and I'm going to reiterate it today, but from the perspective of leadership. So the first group would be those that have never struggled, and that's a very small group. And it could be that people say they've never struggled and they're not being honest, because there's lots of dishonesty when it comes to answering questions about the use of pornography and other lust-related issues, a lot of secrecy. But let's say they're a group that has never struggled. And if that group is in a leadership position in your church, you kind of have to be careful, because they can often treat others as if, why don't they just stop? Why don't they just read their Bible more? Why don't they just not do it? Why don't they just repent? And a lot of these easy answers, which can create kind of a lack of understanding and a breakdown in community. The other thing about the never struggle group is sometimes what we've seen is that people have never used porn before, never struggled in this area. When their circumstances change or they reach a certain point in their life, all of a sudden things change and they become addicts. Often this can be when they remember that they experienced some kind of sexual abuse. So just be aware that these folks need help as well. And they may need accountability. They may need to have filtering and accountability software in their computers. But the main struggle then with the never struggled group is they sense that they don't identify with others who do struggle. So we need to tell them and help them understand that they're not like most people. Secondly, the second group is the group that say they used to struggle and they were, quote, delivered, or they just stopped. And the thing to understand about this group also is that they need help to understand that if they used once, they could use again given the circumstances. So they also will need some kind of transparent honesty. And I know the term accountability has been overused, and accountability is not the primary answer. We've seen that. If you're willing to work a program and stay sober, accountability can help. And there's all kinds of different ways we can show you to create accountability in a person's life. But the people that have used to struggle need to be careful, and they need to be rigorously honest and in fellowship. So you need to encourage them to be in some kind of transparently honest, ongoing group or relationship where they can say what's really going on a day-to-day basis in their lives. The third group is what we call the casual luster. The casual luster is using porn, is occasionally going into lust-related websites, or they're seeking out these kinds of encounters, but they don't seem to be going downhill. In other words, they kind of maintain, they slip and come back, they slip and come back, but they don't go downhill, they don't go to worse behaviors, they don't have tremendously negative consequences in their lives. And these folks especially need help, because we have noticed also that they can teeter over into the addict group, and they will also need to do the same kinds of things. So really the first 3 groups all are going to need to have some kind of transparent honesty. They should consider some sort of blocking situation on their computer to see if that's for them or not. And they should, again, have some kind of fellowship where they're accountable on a daily basis or at least a weekly basis. So finally, we then get to the addict group, and the addict group has taken themselves out of the whole context of what is right or wrong. Lust has become an addiction. They're not free to stop. And so how do we deal with this group? And as a pastor, when someone comes to you, how do you help them? And we say that there are 4 building blocks to the initial ramp up to recovery that they're going to need to go to. The first is they're going to need to probably go away. Some will need to go away to long-term treatment programs, which are very expensive. And that's a rare situation, but sometimes that has to happen. And we can put you in touch with those programs as well. But there are 3 groups that we deal with on the short term, what we call workshop, the 3 to 5 day workshop. And those groups are Bethesda seminars, Be Broken, and the Faithful and True, Mark Lazer's Faithful and True. So those 3 are all good. We all endorse them. If you would like to look them up online, again, they are Bethesda workshops, Be Broken Ministries, and Faithful and True, Mark and Deborah Lazer. Most of them have workshops not only for men but for couples, and Bethesda has one for teens as well that they've just started that involves adults. So they're going to need to go away. Secondly, when they come back, they're going to have to go into therapy because these strongholds that have been built up in their lives, often due to early sexual exposure or sexual abuse, are going to need to be confronted and their own particular issues exposed. And so find the people in your area who are good at working with sexual addiction and send your people to those people. How do you find those people? You find them by networking with people that are in recovery. You can find them by going to sexhelp.com and putting in the area, and the therapist will pop up and you can interview them or ask people about them. There's lots of help in any major area of the country. So go to sexhelp.com. We can also help with that too. So that's the second building block. First is the workshop. Second is individual therapy. Third is the 12-step groups. There are many S groups for sexaholic groups. We recommend Sexaholics Anonymous. You can find out more about them by going to sa.org. We like them because they have a consistent fellowship-wide sobriety definition, which is no sex with self, no sex with anyone other than a spouse. It's the most consistent, we believe, with the biblical sobriety definition. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it's biblical. And if they get into an SA fellowship, then they can begin to recover. And the fourth thing they are going to need is a Christian mentor, somebody to come alongside. Often that will be you if you're a Christian leader. Your role is not to counsel them, not to have endless hour-long sessions, but to check in, to pray with them, to take them out to lunch occasionally for coffee or for coffee, and lead them through this transition because they're going through a life that's going to be completely different on the other side, a marriage that's going to be completely different if their spouse chooses to stay with them on the other side, and they need to have hope that their lives can be put back together. And their lives can be, but sometimes there is difficulty in the first weeks and months and even years of recovery. So these are the kinds of things that we begin to do in an organization to make resources available, to have an understanding of where a person is to go. The last thing I will say about building a resource, and we're going to address this later on, is that the addict themselves, the recovering addict, then becomes for you a resource person to help other addicts. They're going to already do it themselves because that's part of their programs, to help those who suffer. But if you can build that kind of relationship with people in your church who are recovering and who are sober, then you will be able to refer people to them and build a kind of recovering community. So it's a big job, but that's a little bit on how to build a resource-based ministry in your church. It doesn't take a lot of work on your part, it just takes a lot of forethought and a lot of planning. And as always, we're here to help. Email me at j@livingwithoutlust.com, and we'll be glad to help. So until next time, have a great day.